"Don't count on it," Dane said, and moved through the archway past Lanning. What had been a crazy possibility, that the girl in the lobby was Becky, now became a probability. But as he moved toward the stairs, he saw that she was gone. He went to his room, the heaviness, a disappointment in him. There was no telling now where she was. For 4 years he had tried to put Becky out of his mind, but he had never entirely succeeded. He had often wondered if she were married, but his folks had never mentioned her in their letters, and he had never been able to bring himself to ask. It was completely dark in the hall, except for the single bracket lamp above the stairs. Dane put a hand on his gun, thinking that Ashton was the kind who would shoot him in the back if he had a chance. He paused outside his room, listening and hearing nothing. Then he turned the knob and threw the door open. He slid into the room, moving fast so that he was silhouetted for only a moment against the thin hall light. "How are you, Dane?" a voice said. Dane pulled his gun instinctively, and his finger was hard on the trigger before he realized that the voice was Becky Burke's. He leaned against the wall, breathing hard, his eyes on the girl's slim figure. She was standing by the window, facing him, the light from the street framing her straight-backed, supple body. Her face was a dark oval, and although her features were indistinguishable, he had a feeling that she had not changed. Or perhaps it was that he hoped she had not changed. He waited until some of the panic left him. Then he said, "You don't know how near I came to throwing lead at you." "I knew I was taking that chance, Dane, but I had to see you, and I couldn't talk to you in the lobby. I don't want Ed to know I'm here." He shut the door. "This fellow Ashton knows." "I was in the livery stable when he came in. I saw him and jumped into a stall, but I wasn't sure whether he knew me or not." Dane drew a match from his pocket and walked toward the bureau. "I'll light a lamp." "No, Dane, no light." He stopped, his thumb pressed against the match head. "Why?" "I know Ashton. It's my guess he's across the street, waiting for you to light a lamp. He's the kind who'd shoot you through the window." "I figured that was his size." Dane put the match back into his pocket and moved toward her. "Sam must be getting old and jumpy to take on a hairpin like this Ashton." "He's jumpy, all right," she said tonelessly. "He thinks the railroad and his town will make him a lot of money. Then he wants to go into politics. He's crazy, Dane. That's why I'm here." He was close to her now, peering at her face in the darkness. He remembered her as a small and vital girl, filled with a great eagerness for living. Her hair had been the color of wheat straw, her eyes had been a dark blue, almost purple, but it was her mouth that he remembered better than any of her other features. At 16, it had been full-lipped and sweetly shaped. Now, reaching back into his memory, he thought of the last dance he had taken her to, of their kiss when he had brought her home, and his telling her he loved her. He told her he'd asked Drew for permission to marry her, and he remembered she'd grown tense in his arms as she'd said, "You won't let us stay. I know him too well." She had been right. Now he wanted to reach out and take her into his arms, to tell her that he had never stopped loving her, and he still wanted to marry her no matter what sort of trouble there was between Sam Drew and his folks. But he didn't. He was not as impetuous as he had been 4 years before, and he knew what it would do to him if she drew away. She'd likely tell him that if he'd really loved her, he'd have written to her. He had no excuse. It was just that, after he'd left the country, he had sworn to himself that he'd come back with a fortune in his pocket, and he'd show Sam Drew that he was somebody. $52. What a hell of a fortune that was. They stood peering into the darkness at each other, her face tilted up,